and then look at all the, appeal, that have been made to Nigeria Labour Congress, in a way for us to see the way forward. But undoubtedly, NLC, regardless of different opinion, I think what we are raising here is that you have to look at the issues within this sector holistically beyond pricing. You have
Comrade.
to fix refinery, Lupenga says so, Pengazan have said so. I'm very sure TU say the same thing, our NLC has to do this. But the last point I want to raise is that don't also forget that the policy itself is a divisive policy. There are those who are for, there are those who are against. And I find very amusing now that Nigerians are making deaths of NLC strike, and protests. I mean, these are Nigerians who 2012 went on strike for 7 days, 8 days. When we suspended, they said we've been bought out, we've been, compromised. But now Nigerians have not even imposed this policy, and I'm very sure before NLC started, we even started buying these products without protest. Maybe this is the cross we have to carry as a labor movement. But don't also forget that the labor movement also has alternative, which is that if we are pursuing selfish agenda, we just say, okay, you increase the cost of
Comrade,
living.
sorry, I have to come in here.
Have gone up, inflation has gone up. All we need to do is to ask for our wage increases. We can as well ignore it at that level. But we thought the issues happening in the petroleum sector affect all of us beyond ordinary. Yeah.
Comrade, you said that the talks were deadlocked. So government isn't budging and labor isn't budging. And labor does not have the overwhelming support of Nigerians like it had in 2012. So what next?
When you talk of overwhelming support, even in 2012, the support was not automatic. It started with our agitation and our campaign to let everybody get bought into the struggle. So it has always not been automatic. There are always forces who are for price increases, deregulation. There are forces who will look at issues beyond this law pricing, acting holistically. It has always been there. Now, what next? I've told you, government is also calling for a new round of all-inclusive discussions, to look at the issues once again. And we have said so, we are not opposed to dialogue. We are not opposed to continuation of negotiation that broke down. So I have no doubt in my mind that once there's a channel, we'll return back to that discussion. And I've told you that we also fixed a next meeting on Monday, 10 o'clock in the morning on Monday, in which we will review the strike and the protest so far, and look at how to move to the next level. But I have no doubt in my mind that we are prepared for another round of discussion. And I hope by that time, government will look back and reconsider this price. We also look at our own demand and see how we can have a win-win discussion.
Okay. All right. Let's, Mr. Nyayetuk, both opinions within the NLC. One of the units thinking differently on strike, the other one's not on strike. But you, what's your take on the entire situation? Vis-a-vis the conditions the federal government has laid down, why this had to be, and then labor's demands.
I think that both labor and the government have continued this attitude of taking Nigerians for granted, thinking that the Nigerian has no right to know, has no right to understand, has no right to be engaged. He just sits down, you take a decision, and you communicate, you do him the favor of communicating that decision to him. You don't even care the medium, how you communicate it to him. I think that this issue of impunity really needs to come to an end from the side of government and from the side of labor. I had expected that labor will use all avenues to create a buy-in of the public. We're sitting down here and we're asking ourselves, who is labor fighting for? Their staff or we the people? When they call out the strike, do they call out the strike for their staff, their members, or do they call out the strike for generality of the people? What is labor fighting for? Their ego or the good of the people? What is the position of government? The use of their power or the good, the general good of the people, which is the essence of government and governance? I take exception to this, and I think that the time has come when we really need to call both the government and labor to order and say, look, you guys, well, labor can say we are an association, we owe you nothing. They can say that. So when they do their strike, they should just restrict it themselves. But government cannot say so.
Ezekiel,
yes.
Whereas labor has various unions as members,
yes.
The Nigerian worker believes that they represent him.
There's a difference between the Nigerian worker and the Nigerian people. The Nigerian workers, they constitute less than 5% of the Nigerian people. We need to draw that line very well. If labor is like you have, I'm an architect. I belong to Nigerian Institute of Architects. So if we want to talk of a case that concerns the architect, we don't care about the quantity surveyor, we don't care about the medical doctor, the engineer, and the rest. So if labor, they should make it clear to the people whether labor is an organization for their employees or they are an organization that represents the generality of the people. When last did labor call out strike because the price of one tomato is going for 100 naira? But they will call out a strike if their members cannot afford tomato because the price has gone up so high. So they go on minimum wage. They will call on a strike if their casual workers are being laid off. As a result, their membership is being depleted. But when will they call out a strike that the man on the street has no housing? So that is one line we should draw carefully. But labor has a right to defend their members. But Nigerians need to know that if they have a problem, we can sympathize with them, but they are not fighting for us. If they were fighting for us, the first thing they would do is to say, this petrol hike is not okay. We are effectively government. Labor is government. That's the irony that people don't understand. Labor is government. You have just very few elected people who come in either as governor or as commissioners or heads of parastatals or ministers or president. Very few. The generality, those who do the whole work of government, are labor. They know the cost of petrol. They are those that do the computation. They are those that do the analysis. Why can't they engage us and say petrol cannot sell for 105 because we have the data, 45, we have the data, we have the statistics. They call a conference of the civil society, they make available what is on ground. That is fighting for the generality of the people. But as a club, as a body, they have a right to say, look, government, this is how much you have. We are those that computed. This is how much you spend for yourself. We are those that computed. This is what you are paying us. We are those that compute. No commissioner computes anything. No governor computes anything. No president computes anything. Labor computes everything. So they come to the government and say, this is what you take. This is what you give to us. They can even blackmail government and say, you increase our price, our wages, if not so we go public. They can do that. That's like blackmail. An inside house, that's what a lot of labor outside do. This issue of strike is archaic, anachronistic. It is like the land that time forgot. Labor of today should not be thinking, they should get a little more technical. When, my sister, when I show you, you've been unfair to me. You can't tell me that you can't pay my salary. I've been your cook. I went to the market. This is the list. I used 105,000 naira to buy things last week. My money is just 20,000 naira. Please pay me my 20,000 naira. You can't say there's no money because I am the one that went to the market and I bought your stuff for you. If you don't want to employ me, then tell me, let me go. Yeah. I don't have food for my family. At that point, you are compelled to say, oh, Richard, sorry, I really didn't think of it that way. That's not it. Okay, I'll pay you today. Nobody heard about it. Okay. Labour has means of talking to government, but let them not tell us that they are talking for us. Okay. If they want to talk for us, they should start by engaging us. Okay.
Now, Comrade Eson, how much talking did government do with Labour before arriving at the 145 naira?
As much as I know, there wasn't any engagement. And that is where I will have to agree with my colleague that I just spoken, that there isn't any engagement. Ordinarily, if such thing is to be done, you have to get in touch with all the stakeholders, particularly the labor, the civil society, and all have you. But in this case, it was just done unilaterally. And that's been the reason we decided that, no, this can't be, this can't, remain. And we felt it shouldn't be resolved by putting the cart before the horse. What do I mean? By starting, to go on strike action, which to me, as a very knowledgeable, trade unionist, is supposed to be the last resort. Okay. First thing you do is engage the government. Let them talk to you. And that exactly is what my own shade of opinion has done. And while we got invited by the government, we were able to push through to the government that, look, this hike in price you have just put, across to Nigerians is bad and it's illegal. As much as we know, the government does not have the right to do that unilaterally. It is supposed to be the legitimate and statutory duty of the PPPRA, that is the Petroleum Product Price Regulatory Agency, that should have to do that. And to the best of the knowledge we have of that organization, we know it doesn't have a board. So how does it operate? This is part of what we raised, as issues, as queries before the government when we started being engaged on Monday, precisely, 5-6 days ago. And we're able to get something out of it. What did we get out of it? The government, of course, accede to our position that yes, we have valid, presentation. We told them the oil price hike is, adding pressure on an average Nigerian out there, and is making a complete rubbish of the value of the money in his pocket. And we bring in the issue of, minimum wage review, which is long overdue. And the government accepted. Like my colleague has rightly said, if you want to go on the street and do some street actions, you don't just get on the street and begin to do strike without sitting down and planning very, very well how you want your strike action to go. In strike management,